As you may have noticed, I gave up on scripted reviews a while back in favour of podcasts, and I'd like to do a Season 8 retrospective prior to the conclusion. I'm planning a reaction video for the finale itself, my first ever live reaction video in fact. I've noticed people seem to like them, and I'll give anything a try once. Of course, I'll be editing out the bits where I'm not visibly or audibly reacting, rather than expect people to sit through me eating biscuits and scratching my bollocks, so the most damning thing will be if there's just 1 second of me going, "Oh," or raising my left eyebrow. But anyway, this one's gonna be a whopper. I have already said I enjoyed Deep Breath, finding it epic and filmic, and I've now warmed to the Paternoster gang loving the success of GSD superheroes. More please. Also, while this episode reuses a villain, by having robots become cyborgs by becoming more human, it actually takes a trope, then turns it on its head. Into the Dalek was something of a rehash, and I wasn't that keen on Danny's introduction. Robot of Sherwood was fun but no masterpiece, pretty much what I expected, although it is a shame they cut the beheading, meaning that some people won't even have realised the Sheriff of Nottingham was a cyborg. Listen was pretentious, empty, and churned thoughtlessly out of the Moffat machine. Time Heist was great, but needed to be a two-parter, especially as I wanted more of the villain, partly since I have low expectations for Missy. Michelle Gomez is one of the best actors around, but Moffat's female villains tend to lack backstory or motivation. Bad because they're just kooky that way. The Caretaker had its moments but essentially left me cold, and most people who like it remark on Danny finally meeting the Doctor for the first time. To get to the elephant in the room, let's talk Kill the Moon. Unintentional, rhyme is unintentional. I enjoyed this episode on first viewing, but am somewhat irritated when I look back, agreeing with some, though not all, the objections. Oddly, it's the first half I don't like. I'll forgive the unfeasible size of the bacteria, but why would they be arachnids? Is that a thing? The 2 stupid astronauts. Fine that they're red shirts, but why would we send up 1 competent person and 2 useless ones? Yes, the writer is making the point that we've lost interest in space travel, but that's hammered home enough throughout. Also, it's not that far in the future. There was no reason this couldn't be set in, say, 2114. We don't see any Earth civilization the whole episode, so this would have been easy. You could literally dub it as 2114 and not create a problem. One bugbear about the ending is that the last 5 minutes contradict the first 5 minutes. Why could they not have been watching the hatching from a hill, a garden, an observatory even? What about from NASA? When you've opened by claiming the tides are high worldwide, which they wouldn't be anyway, and that's a line that could easily have been fixed, but whatever, you've chosen a beach. A beach. The one place you shouldn't have chosen. Did he even proofread that, and every episode of New Who has its own meeting with the entire team? No one spotted that. Maybe if there'd been a line about the tides changing as the baby moves, like when Courtney was floating briefly, but A, that would be remarkably fast, and B, that would be putting a line in just to address a mistake that could easily have been altered anyway. I am, however, going to defend this episode against some of the science criticisms, not because I don't want actual science in my science fiction, but because science isn't just about facts and tests. It is also about imagination and wonder. Scientists aren't boring, they're inspired by the natural world and believe all sorts of things may be possible. Can we be certain that our moon cannot be an egg? Reasonably certain, yes. Although science doesn't actually deal in solid certainties. In a sense, there is no such thing as a scientific fact. Plus, there are people worldwide who believe things 100 times more outlandish than the moon being an egg. Perhaps it shouldn't have been Earth's moon, but I'll forgive, because I love creatures that live in space, and when did Doctor Who last do that? And breeding in space is something I haven't seen since Voyager, I think. This writer was looking at the moon one day and imagined it could be an egg. True high-concept stuff I've not seen before. The most frequent scientific objection, and one people can't get over, is an egg gaining mass like a pregnant woman's belly growing. Indeed, this obviously doesn't happen with eggs. That would mean new mass appearing from nowhere, and this would alter the entire way we see the universe. The embryo consumes the protein already in there in order to develop and grow, and due to evaporation, eggs actually lose mass over time. But, hear me out here. If a creature can live in space, where does it get its energy? The moon has no atmosphere and thus gets far more exposure to the sun. Who's to say they don't live on vitamin D, as we partly do, and that the shell can't absorb it? Yes, I had to think of that myself instead of the writer thinking something up, but hey, it's New Who, and as usual everything's crammed into 45 minutes. I can actually imagine a line like that being cut for time. Alright, to make way for the obligatory Danny and Clara scene at the end. So, I am only partially defending or excusing this. Oh, and the moon reduces our population by about 90%, and the period when we didn't have one at all would be like a worldwide earthquake, but you're not meant to think of that. In the classic series, Terrance Dicks and Robert Holmes took their names off of the brain of Morbius, because the script was hacked to pieces and they didn't like the end result. Can anybody in the comments tell me a plot hole in that serial? One final point about Kill the Moon is that the abortion metaphor was over-egged, no pun intended, clumsy and didn't really work, and as Claudia Berlin pointed out, very irresponsible when you consider the large teenage audience, and as Stuart Hardy pointed out, the episode only pretends to pose a moral question but is actually spoon-feeding its morality to you. I had hoped to see an interview with the writer on Doctor Who Extra, which usually interviews the episode writer, but his absence is conspicuous and possibly telling. Anyway, we then have Mummy on the Orient Express. Another great high-concept episode, and with some genuine horror. As someone who wasn't personally scared by Listen, this one gave us the first behind-the-sofa moment since Deep Breath, and it's about time, bearing in mind I am not the only arachnophobic on YouTube to claim the spiders in Kill the Moon weren't scary. But if you felt that that counted as horror, well, horror is subjective and very hard to pull off. My only gripe with Mummy on the Orient Express is how much of the episode is Clara-rama. Flatline is different, imaginative, and does what Doctor Who should do. It shows us something we've not seen before. Thinking outside the box is also great, and visually I think they pulled this off. They also kept the Clara-Danny stuff to a minimum, well, comparatively. Even if the one scene with Danny was pretty stupid, it's like they're trying to do an Ally McBeal with the companion. How do I balance my job as a space-time traveller with still having a love life? Do I have to pick the TARDIS or men? What about my biological clock? If there's anyone listening who genuinely thinks this works, please comment below. Then get therapy. Another notable feature is Clara taking on the role of Doctor, both learning what it's like to be him and also showing him what it's like to be on the receiving end of what he is. Flatline is also yet another example of the bottle episode being one that stands out as exceptional and helps to establish Capaldi as the Doctor, even if this is a little late in coming. I would now chuck out the Sixth Doctor comparison, as I do think his softening is more like that of Hartnell's First Doctor. Next up is In the Forest of the Night. For anyone not familiar with William Blake, this is a line from the poem The Tiger, and my love of the poem meant I was looking forward to the episode the second I heard the title, and when I saw the first publicity featuring the tiger, I was truly excited. I loved the sense of wonder and whimsy, and as a lifelong Londoner, I actually preferred the way the city looked in this episode. Yes, it was all a bit twee, and the environmental message was laid on rather thick, and you don't feel much of a threat. Come to that, we've had 2 Don't Worry, Nature Sorts Itself Out episodes far too close together. Perhaps if this hadn't been in the same season as Kill the Moon. They are also both episodes full of holes and overshadowed by the 2 far superior episodes sandwiched between them. They even rehash a line from Kill the Moon. In any case, we once again end on Missy and a next time trailer that... well, I'll see you on the other side. Actually, one addendum. Looking back across all the new series finales, the only one from the Russell T Davies era I found underwhelming was Army of Ghosts / Doomsday. As for Moffat's finales, I really liked the Pandorica episodes, but then the Tesselector ending was kind of cheating. This would give Moffat a 50-50 success rate, But if you count the end of Season 7 as a finale, well, there's nothing final about Name of the Doctor. It launches a trilogy. But if you count this rather Marmite episode, well, I like it. So, to me, we have a Star Trek movie kind of pattern of good, then bad, then good. So the next 2 episodes would theoretically be terrible.